Script. The first Ha. Contemplation of the clouds. A day with Skippy Howe. The scene opens low in the valley. We hear it. From each corner and echoing, we hear the water in the air, the streams conversing. The effect forms geometries, and that geometry is a significance that transfers information as compactly, elegantly, and dramatically as a current of wind, its story to a bird. It is a moody day. Skippy Howe's buckets of just spawning opa'i, o'opu, and hihiwai anchor the moment, but the laminated photographs of species and charts he holds up in succession tremble with the possibility of rain. Students are tucking their rain gear into pockets and backpacks as the valley shifts and considers under the contemplation of the clouds, but leans towards mist and no rain. We are learning the language that is not taught in books, a language that has never been codified because it cannot be translated into words. It is the water gossiping and laughing with the air. It is thunder as a vowel. It is the valley becoming undone and flash flooding you with insight as it subtracts the time you have to make a decision. It is nature. It is her aina. If we use the terms interchangeably, although nature lacks the symbiotic and animated dimension the aina embodies. In the full regalia of the laws she embodies and the necessity of recognizing and responding to them, her call, meke aloha aina, in this time of need, while her systems under stress in present time are in urgent need of repair. Skippy proceeded to tell us about stream flow and the habits of aquatic organisms who maintain streams' ecologies, and how the practice of diversion destroys the entire system that these organisms create, which lead to stream filtration, vegetation transpiration, and the maintenance of a healthy hydrologic cycle, and in turn, the cooler climate. Perhaps more like the most equitable climate in the world, Nakwina describes in her 1904 account, Hawai'i Native Peoples. Skippy and I are ascending the long, curling steps that lead up from a few of the cascading pool spawning grounds of the hihiwai, o'opu, and the opa'i in the Iao stream. These marine organisms are taxonomically unrelated but share a common evolutionary history, although described as amphidromous, meaning primarily fishes who have moved between fresh and saltwater habitats, not necessarily to breed. This term does not capture the full evolutionary majesty of what exists in nature, especially in an extant record of organisms that not only exhibit this behavioral characteristic, but likewise have evolved physical tools, as in the case of the particular fish who changes its upper jaw into a hook in order to heft itself upstream to its destination, to the o'opu naniha, who has fused its pelvic fins together into a suction cup to facilitate its gravity-destroying journey, to the waterfall scaling opa'i, who have evolved to vertically climb slick surfaces of rock under running waterfalls, and unique techniques for migrating upstream that merit further study. Why was migrating upstream and against gravity so important? And what consequences does this activity have for the life of the stream? Are these marine organisms providing a service to stream ecology in symbiotic relationship with an aspect of the stream? Is there anything in common across all these different species that happens as a result of the fresh and saltwater conversation of these upward migrations? That is the question I want to ask Skippy Howe. But our journey has not yet begun. I am not yet at the question-asking stage. We are still ascending the steps, and I am preparing my informed consent form for his signature, and we are, in my recollection, on the valley floor, getting acquainted, stepping up to the level above, Skippy carrying his buckets just released of all their fertility in the mist and inquiry of the waters, and still in his wetsuit. He wouldn't hear of me carrying a bucket. I had offered and felt a little ashamed that I had nothing to bear up the steps except my rush of questions to express my gratitude for the accomplishments of the morning. Skippy was gracious, but the ceremony he had performed, which was ceremonial even though it wasn't expressly shared in this manner with the group involved in the morning's activities, involved the significant gesture of one man moving these tiny hihiwai by hand up the stream, and this act may be doing much more to hold the stream's ecology together, and so the treasure jewel of the Iao Valley, which visitors from around the world come to see, than anybody working in Western science presently dreams. Skippy had paused and was looking around us as we crossed the bridge, which has always felt a bit like a bridge in an unfinished C.S. Lewis story, inspired by his undisclosed trip to Hawaii to me, a portal of some kind, in other words, and as he listened to the peaks of the valley and what this special corridor, the expanse spanned by the body of the bridge we were crossing, had to communicate to the pools, cascades and streams below, he said, there are protocols. For example, if someone is harvesting at some time in a stream, I do not come to that area during that time. He was sharing the life of the stream, which is vibrant in spite of diversions and the ecological violence of channelization. At the top, before we had started down to release the spawning organisms in the stream, he had paused, looked around him, and commented on how it always feels in the valley. Like air conditioning. Cool, yeah? And he demonstrated his listening to us. I can hear the water in the air here. Over where the diversions occur, there is no sound, no conversation of the water. But not only is it silent, the temperature is higher. It's hot. The water boils the larvae, and the area is arid. It's arid in sound as well as air. I realized at this point what Skippy had said and wanted to ask him something about it, but the question would have to wait. We were already on our way to release the organisms below. This question wasn't about amphidromy, but it was similar. We will see how as the narrative progresses. What Skippy had just shared suggested the possibility that a study could be done proving the correlation between stream diversion and temperature rise or climate change. I was eager to ask him about it, but didn't trust my tongue to eloquently express the concept yet, and so held my breath. The two insights I had that day on the way up and down the valley elevations was that the information Skippy had used to relay whether or not any floods were imminent or the conditions safe for our excursion was being correlated with an array of other signifiers in a field that could only be claimed at the point where a person meets the laws of the world he inhabits. This intuition and instinct is combined as a form of knowledge that has no name, to my knowledge, in English, but which in Hawaiian culture is captured by the phrase aloha aina in the figure of the konohiki. For the purposes of this study, and due to the lack of any further context for this type of knowledge in the West, the konohiki can be considered our environmental doctors, those who see the limits, laws, and messages of things as they are, and behave to keep that environment in good order. Sometimes the message is a call or an expression of need, like the call of the hihiwai to migrate past the corporate diversions to the upper climes of the deeply breathing streams. Seeing the invisible. So what is it Skippy sees, hears, pays attention to that other scientists don't? What isn't there? The pattern, the larger intelligence of the system of which he is a symbiotic, responsive, transmitting and receiving part. He's hearing the why and the how of the water, and that intuition, multisensory knowledge, instructs him effectively how to behave, what to do, in order to care for the Aina. This is the journey we are about to take, deep into the invisible, living world that is already everywhere around you, breathing you alive, awake and asleep, and amplified with Ha.